Welcome to the show, Truthers. This is Bear Truth and Trevor coming to you live from a sub-Antarctic military base, also known as a DUM. Today, on the Super Spectrum, we'll be reviewing Him. You'll never be the same after tonight. Wow, what a good movie, though, you know? Yeah?
For real.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, folks, I loved Him. I can't wait to find out what Trevor thought, although we spoke about it. It definitely got to him a lot. He really enjoyed it, or from what I can tell, I think he enjoyed it. Is that true, Trevor?
Yes,
Awesome.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Um, give this movie a chance, guys. We have a review prepared for you. Both of us will give you the reviews, and then we'll break down some symbolism like we always do. So hang tight and get ready because this one's gonna be the one. All right.
Mhm.
So here's my review, guys. The beginning of this film felt rough or cringy, with the actors portraying the main character, Cameron's family. Um, sorry, what I want to say there. Beginning of the movie, a little rough and cringy, only based on the actors who are portraying Cameron's family. They didn't seem maybe like, the best actors, and they were like very dumb. But I think that was what they were supposed to be. We see that they're kind of a mundane, stuck in consumer culture group that Cameron, the main character, is surrounded by. And Cameron is going to leave that world behind for what he thinks is a better one. So in the beginning, felt a little cringe, little rough. You get through that first 5-10 minutes, you're set. So that's all I was saying. But I just think they were good actors portraying dumb people, is the way I put it. So my enjoyment of the film turned up to the max once the movie quickly left Cam's mundane life and went all in on its promise of showing a person's descent into an underworld, which promises an ascent into stardom. His journey is over the top but not absurd. Instead, the film felt based in reality enough to keep me on the edge of my seat. Its creepy and strange atmosphere made it feel like an adult version of the Goosebumps TV show, making me love every minute of it after its rocky start. I give the film a 10, and I applaud it. I applaud its victory in exploring such controversial topics and subjects. So that's all I have to say. Short and sweet. Oh, well, real quick on the review side. Marlon Wayne, one of the greatest performances of all time. Shoot me. I, I promise this isn't any sort of like bias. I love him in Scream. Haven't seen him in anything else, but good goodness, this man can act. It reminds me of Sam Hyde and his intensity.
Right.
And if you go see Sam Hyde's comedy routine, another comedian, they understand people and they know how to act. So also Sam Hyde, greatest performance I've ever seen in my life. Marlon Wayne, another great, like on par with
Yeah.
that. So also the movie didn't hold back and went fully into its premise, like I said, which I really applaud. We don't see that enough. We don't see these topics covered enough. It's like Eyes Wide Shut on steroids. Watch this film, guys. Don't let the Rotten Tomatoes score fool you. There's a lot more for you can actually if you actually go see it yourself. So, Trevor, that's all I have to say for my review. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have anything really written or prepared in terms of review, but you know, um I was really interested in this movie when I saw the trailer because you don't really get to. We've all heard about the behind the scenes occult nature of the music industry or politics, but you don't really hear too much about sports. And so I was really intrigued by this movie, and I was not disappointed. It was super, yeah, like you said, based in reality, but I was surprised with how in depth they went with how it, as I put it, that's that's essentially what I imagine is going on in reality. Not as blatant maybe, but they did a crazy job. I was really surprised with how spooky but real they made it. I thought Cameron was a great actor. I don't know his, I didn't look up his name yet, but the guy who played him, I've never seen him in anything, but he did a really good job of playing, a good guy who gets into a crazy descent into the industry and doing what it takes to be great and or in this case the greatest like and so the acting yeah uh who was that again, the Waynes,
Marlon.
Marlon Waynes, yeah, he was crazy. um that comedian Jim Jeffries, he did a great job.
That was Marco, the
Was that
healer.
his name, the healer, yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, basically I haven't had this I don't know if I've really ever had this experience with the movie where I was telling you that I used to kind of have a hard time staying focused on movies, and I would get distracted and I would start thinking about like random stuff. And lately I've been getting, maybe just with the movies we've been seeing, they're pretty good movies that I get pretty lost in the story. This one, I've never had this experience where I was not even thinking about what's gonna happen. I was just fully in it till the last scene. And even in the last scene I didn't know what was gonna happen, and it was awesome. Like um so I would give it an 8 out of 10. I almost I'd say 8.5 because I would almost say 9, but yeah, it's just 8.5 just because really good. Um And one last thing I'll say, just in terms of review, this isn't really getting into the symbols or anything. Um, I've enjoyed Jordan Peele's other horror movies, but there's also like I love just, this is what I liked about Eddington too. Like there's really no, but this one is, it doesn't really touch it at all. Um, I guess there was no political spin or even cultural spin. There was some good cultural moments. Um, they talk about the Indians a little bit,
Yep.
but it wasn't like, and there was like a political or cultural element to that, but it wasn't the focus of the movie. And even that moment, like I have nothing against political or cultural statements. Just when it's, sometimes there seems to be an ulterior motive, or and there was no motive here other than, yeah, I was just shocked. That's the last thing I'll say. I was shocked that they made this movie and put it all out there in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, me too, and I'm glad they did, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I think the movie kind of talks about our culture and really the pretty much the culture of the world, because everyone follows America anyways. I feel like it was such a wide and I guess meta analysis on our culture because our culture is all about materialism. And this is what the movie is all about, materialism, Satanism.
and also,
So,
yeah, I guess with the Satanism, like spiritualism, and that's what I think a lot of movies. Everything is spiritual in a sense, but that's what I was saying just now about like I don't like the political. It's not that I don't like the political. Like Eddington was political, and I love that, but um,
you don't like a one-sided political argument.
right, and this was. It's rare to see just like a spiritual. It was almost like spiritually focused. There's the cultural element, like in a weird way, it's showing, yeah, the culture, the material culture, but in doing so, it's very spiritual.
Yeah, it gets into everything, man. And yeah, I'm glad we both picked up on that. Um, yeah, that spiritual versus materialism is in the last movie that was reviewed with the super spectrum, the one battle after another. And I didn't call it materialist enough. I didn't use the word materialist enough, but like that's what these people who are completely not spiritual uh, have no belief in any sort of bigger picture or any sort of benefit towards, helping humanity. They tend to all be just materialist and they only care about their own selfish material gains. Um, and I think it's a lot of the time because they are so materialist that they're to the point that they're atheists. They don't believe in any sort of spirituality, even if, like I said, on the side of the Christian conservative military and secret societies, they claim to be spiritual. They're not. Like I said, I believe that they really use that and use their religion as a cover, and they don't even believe or buy into it. And then on the side of the protesters and um, revolutionaries, those people are just atheists, oftentimes at least. And they
And not
also,
just
yeah.
real quick, not just atheists. I've noticed this in reality. I
Mhm,
unfortunately didn't get to see one battle after another yet, but
mhm.
I've been thinking about this with in real life that similar to what you're saying about Christian conservatives or evangelical Christians.
Yeah,
Um,
Zionists,
on the other side, um, I've noticed this with certain people. They also, I don't think, believe in their cause.
right,
They are just virtue signaling to feel
yeah,
better about themselves.
right. They're virtue signaling, and they're not really, it's about their cause, like you're saying, and they're doing it mostly, maybe not mostly all the time. A lot of the times they're doing it for virtue signaling, but they're not doing it for like spiritual reasons because they're not spiritual. They're doing it for, in the movie, it shows selfish gain over the actual gain of their cause, um, like you're saying. Um, but we won't get stuck on that too much. But yeah, materialism is a big thing in this movie. And I break it down more and I reference that film later. So let's get into the first notes. Um, so I say, this film touches on the fact that many people who become famous do so to feel like they've earned their parents' love, because that need was so neglected as a child and only given to them when they won. Society also becomes a surrogate parent for these stars and continues to fulfill their need for admiration. This need is also like chasing a high that you've built tolerance for. So after the high received by your family's attention is no longer enough, then you look to society for it because their energy is greater. Yet it will never be as meaningful as the attention given to you by your family. This last aspect is why so many stars regret their stardom, as fame often becomes more of a gift than a curse. Him is the person everyone talks about and wants to be or be with, but is all of that attention worth it?
Perfect. Yeah. That's like super. That's like what it's all about. Not even just, yeah, like you said, this talks about basically our whole world culture. I think we're probably more familiar with it in America or the West, especially. But I think because of the internet, that's transcended just American culture. Everyone wants to be famous. Well, not everyone wants to be famous, but like that uh, desire to be famous has bled out to the whole world. And that's really where it comes from. And I've just recently started to learn that. Yeah, that like it comes from, I've never even heard it put that way. That as an adult, people seeking fame or admiration, or even people not seeking that level, but like a career, um, just like a high level career or success in a career, they're replacing the attention and love they didn't receive from their parents or family with society, um, or in the case of a career, uh, a company.
The corporation, the franchise, like the football company, and then also, your peers, who are your community, right? That's why people seek gangs. They also seek secret societies, um, not only for what they might learn there, right? But it's also these people are like me. They understand me. They're like my family. But maybe your family isn't enough anymore, or was never giving you what you needed when it comes in terms of love. Um, and oftentimes, like this movie gets into, you might sacrifice those people for you know, the people that you more relate with. Um,
Real quick,
mhm,
um, do you get into where spoiler alerts? Did
mhm.
you get into the I'm gonna go watch tape and the tape he was watching?
Wow. No, but I I thought about that all the time, and
Because
please go ahead. What do you think about that?
just I'll read one of I don't have much written. I just have like a word here to remind me of what um the well I don't know if I want to get into that yet, the football spinning, but I was gonna say the fan. Um, but we can get into more into depth into the football spinning. But I'll just say that like the football spinning is like the first moment where this movie starts to veer towards the maybe it's not the very first, but it's not the first spiritual element because it starts off spiritual, literally like the saviors, which I thought was hilarious. The team is the saviors, and they've got a shrine, and their family has a shrine to the saviors, and it's like mixed with actual Christian altarpieces and then football memorabilia and stuff. But so the football spinning was like this first. The football just keeps spinning,
Mystical. Yeah.
and he gets caught into. He gets distracted by this because it's like defying
The laws of
physics,
physics.
and he then gets attacked by a Luciferian or a Baphomet looking goat like mascot creature thing. And that's what starts this. Well, from the viewer's perspective, that's what starts this occult adjacent or cult thing. But then he's at this combine where he's, uh, I guess, like trying out, or I'm not a super sports guy, but he's like sort of like trying out, even though like he's already been, he hasn't been signed, but he hasn't, I think he's been drafted. Like he's, I don't know. It's
I think
basically,
the combine is where you show off, and then it's like the week before the draft maybe, and then yeah, the
those
draft.
kind of like tryouts. And he's in the tunnel. He's basically just gotten this traumatic brain injury, and I think he had just had this like outburst because he his mom and his brother are arguing about whether he should go out there, or they weren't even arguing about whether he should go out there. It was just his um, safety or whatnot. His mom on his side of like safety, sort of, but then his brother. I don't. That part wasn't as important to what I'm saying. So he has this outburst, and then he's standing in the tunnel by himself, and he's in the darkness, and you can see the light of the football field, and he's just kind of. I think he's waiting to go out there, and he hears a goat in the tunnel, and he turns around, and he goes to look at it, and then it's a fan, like this crazed fan who's painted like in the team colors, and he
Mhm.
hands him a pen, and like although he looks disturbed, he just I don't think they actually show it, but he like goes to autograph his this fan. And the reason I ask about the tape, this is kind of jumping way forward, but throughout the whole movie, it's funny. I was like slightly inspired by like, although Marlon Wayne's character is not someone I aspire to be like in a lot of ways, just the aspect of like every time Cam goes to party or whatnot, he says, I'm gonna go watch tape. And we're just like, that's kind of cool. Like he's always like, he's still in it, which like of course he is. Like he says something crazy later, we can talk about later, but I thought it was hilarious, but also with what you're saying about society and people's desire for attention from society and fans. He I kind of had a feeling, but like I thought it was funny, but also disturbing when he finally goes into the room where he watches tape. This is like basically the second to last scene, but he's just watching fans cheering for him. He's not even watching football tape. He's just sits there probably all the time. I mean, literally, they reference it throughout the whole movie. I'm gonna go watch tape, and he's just watching the fans cheering for him, which is completely insane, but is exactly what you're describing, like the epitome of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I didn't catch that. I didn't catch the. So when I saw the football, I was like, this is a miracle. And then I forgot about it because I started thinking about other stuff and I write down in the movie stuff. So you bringing that back to my attention is huge. We're going to talk about that. I have it written down at the end of the notes. We're going to talk about that. We're going to, because we went on a phone call earlier and you told me about that aspect. Didn't tell me about the tape, which that's beautiful. I didn't even like I saw him looking up at the ceiling and I didn't know exactly like that went in and out of my head. I didn't notice. And then also the fan I'll say this part real quick right now while I remember, but and I didn't notice I didn't think much about the fan as much as you did. And you brought this up to me. Um that he's not looking at what the fan is asking him to sign. He's just signing no matter what, or like it doesn't matter to him. And this is almost like signing a contract that you don't know what you're signing. And so it it's kind of like Hereditary. Like this could have been a person who was somehow connected to people pulling the strings, and I think this was a fanatic lunatic guy who we show or who's shown later on in the film, or he's not, but others are like him. And especially with that goat, the satanic goat Baphomet, like you said, sound, that could be a hint like he's like signing himself away,
Yes.
already. And that's what he goes into this like ready to do, basically, you know?
And real quick, not that this is like super important, but I forgot that part that he hears a real goat in the tunnel, which leads him to look, and then he sees the fan. He signs the fan, and then the fan goes like, bah. So
Hmm.
it was that like points towards what you're saying that
The
they
cult.
put him there.
Yeah, yeah, some sort of MK Ultra lunatic person they pulled off the streets and, turned into their slave or whatever, hypnotized slave. Okay, so speaking of hypnotized slaves, Julia Fox, the actress playing Marlon Wayne's wife in this film, that's kind of a joke, she's a smart actress. I know that these people aren't
Mhm.
one-dimensional, blah blah blah. She's a smart actress, but let's hear me out on what's going on. So Julia Fox, great performance, like amazing performance. I've never seen her be a big role in a movie, and I was so happy she got a big role. And like when I first saw her with Kanye, I was like, this the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. But in this film, and and now, and I think if the Instagram thing that I saw or whatever it was, like Google thing, like she regrets her plastic surgery, but I bet they regret a lot of the decisions they've made in their life. But anyways, we all do, as we should, because we're not always making the right decision. But so Julia Fox, the actress playing Marlon Wayne's wife in this film, seems to have been taken by this need for acceptance from society. Her fake teeth, butt, lips, and anorexic physique scream a desire to conform. She was, and that's not worded properly, but you guys know what I mean. She was a natural beauty, but it seems she felt she wasn't enough. Her character in this film is also a representation of a materialist selling their soul for fame. And selling your soul is your most like beautiful and like, you know, it's I can't remember if it's Jesus or God said God only sees what's inside. He doesn't see what's outside, right? And that's referring to your character and your soul. So anyways, that's what I mean when you know but yeah, like selling your soul and then selling your natural beauty, right? We're all naturally beautiful because we're all sacredly connected through that spiritual origin, you know that put us all here. And anyways, yeah, and that's why we're all one, in that we are all beautiful sacred beings that should be respect ourselves and respect others, because they're all are connected through that sacred origin. But anyways, um, gonna go on from Julia. But as much as being a QB is about being a leader for your team, it's also about being a mascot for society. Much of a famous person's job is spent performing for their audience and doing meet and greets, cheering up the fan base. This reminds me of the scheduled Mickey and Minnie meetup greets. Or sorry. This reminds me of the scheduled Mickey and Minnie meet and greets all around Disney. As the star follows their schedule of fan appearances, a question pokes its head. Is it really the star or the fan who is the leader in control? Or maybe it's neither, and instead, really just a third party pulling the heartstrings of both sides behind the scenes. While both parties may take home as much as they give, is there another entity reaping the most benefit without even lifting a finger? All right. So keep these things in mind. All right. Um, Huge part in the movie, wrote it down. Isaiah White, Marlon Wayne's character, says, do me a favor, don't be like me. Either says, do me a favor, don't be like me, or do me a favor. And
I think he says, "Don't do it how I did it" or
there
something.
we go. Yeah. Don't, yeah, that's what I wrote down. Sorry. It's so similar. Yeah. Do me a favor, don't do it like me. That's what he does. That almost positive that's what he says. Um, is this Marlon Wayne's character warning not for Cam to not get the attention he desires like Marlon Wayne got it as a QB, where he basically had to sell his body, mind, and soul to a franchise who was just using him for their own gain? This warning is for neglected children who were only loved by their parents when they succeeded, but it also is a warning for those who join things like gangs or even secret societies so that they will feel they found their community. Anything you want to say on that, Trevor? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I have something, but I'll bring it up later.
All right. Another quote by Isaiah that stuck with me was his question to Cam asking him if he wanted to be a mascot or a QB. In other words, a follower or a leader. Once I understood this, I was no longer annoyed by Cam killing the mascot. At first, I didn't think it made sense for his character to kill someone like that in cold blood. But it made sense once I realized it was like Cam's way of separating himself from being a fan any longer, because now he was finally becoming a QB, the superstar. I also excused his action because he probably assumed it was the crazy fan of Isaiah who tried to kill him the night before under the mascot costume. Even though he couldn't tell for sure, it would be safe for Cam to assume that she didn't die when Isaiah threw her against the wall in the sauna, and that the Illuminati people would use her as the live target to put under the mascot costume, especially because she basically was Isaiah's mascot, with her being his biggest fan and all. All right. I
Um,
that was a part where when I saw it, I was like, oh, this doesn't like I don't like this. And then I thought about everything I should explain.
well, that brings up something that I was a big takeaway for me, or something I noticed that you may not have, or maybe you did, but an interesting message or element to the movie that is something I think about a lot, that I don't really, people talk about CTE a lot,
Mhm.
but my view on mental health and CTE is like something different, but it is literally mental health.
I don't know what CTE is.
Um, it's cognitive, I forget what it stands for, but it's an acronym. It's when you get repeated head trauma, you get this disease or disorder. It's what OJ Simpson allegedly had, or I don't know about OJ, but it basically causes, it's a degenerative brain disorder from repeated head trauma. That's what I wanted to bring up. People talk about it like it's becoming more and more recognized. There was a movie about it. Will Smith did. I never saw it, but it made it more known. But it's something that the NFL tries to, I think they're slowly acknowledging it, but I think they've got bigger helmets now or something, but it's something that's unavoidable because it's like it's not even like big head trauma, but that's something as well. Basically what I'm trying to get at is that like that's super interesting to me, that head trauma, and that I didn't explain yet about CTE. The number one symptom is that it makes people risk averse, but then eventually beyond risk averse, like uh they do something like a lot of football players have killed their wives, or killed someone. Wrestlers, there was a wrestler, I forget his name, but a wrestler who people who will watch this, like, definitely someone would know who I'm talking about. But Chris Benoit, I know I forget what he did, but I think he did something crazy like that. Anyway, so they all end up like killing people, and so basically what I'm trying to say is that I see that in most mental health cases that it connects to spirituality, in my opinion. Like, it's like same thing with psychedelics. Like, if you do too many psychedelics, same thing with your brain. It's like lifting this veil sometimes with a lot of mental health disorders, but then with CTE, it almost seems like it's like it's connecting with a primal negative side of the human spirit, because bringing it back to the movie specifically, I think that the scene you're talking about,
Hmm.
I also didn't think much of him. Well, I not also actually indifferent or different from what you're saying. I didn't think much of him killing him, the mascot, because I think that was after he maybe it wasn't, but wasn't that after he rams his head into this other guy, and like I think he killed him as well. They don't really show that he died, but like he really seriously messed this guy up forever if he didn't kill him. And while he does it, or after he does it, he says, he goes into this like beyond macho, like evil masculine, like dark masculine, like dead body alert, like goes into this like gangster mode. And then uh what's Marlon Wayne's character name?
Isaiah White.
Isaiah goes up to him and he's like, he whispers in his ear, because I don't think he obviously wants the other teammates to hear, but he says something like, I don't remember what he said, but it was like, I think at one point he said, "There he is." I think he said that to himself, and then he whispers in
Hmm.
his ear like, "I'm proud of you," or like, "Good job." And so when he shot the guy, and he also said, he bet his like quarterback position, which is something he initially wasn't. He was being very passive and like modest about his coming into his home, but also into this position of like possibly and probably being the next quarterback for the team, um, and taking his Isaiah's position, not just in the team but in society. And so him like betting him like that, he was being very confident, and like I don't think it was just like confidence, it was like his brain is starting to. And I think that was a reference to CTE basically. Although CTE is like a long term thing, he gets that initial brain injury, and then he keeps hitting his head basically. And at that point, I think they might have been referencing that like he's digressing. Combined with my point, that's why I think my it was interesting to see that my perspective on mental health being kind of connected to spiritual. That's kind of what that was doing as well. Like he's getting this actual brain injury, but he's also seemingly becoming possessed almost.
Yeah, so brain damage and yeah, spiritual damage, which the head is your heaven. The head is the heaven, body is earth. So yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I definitely think that that's something that I wasn't seeing, but I like that you put that there. Um, so more thought about the QB and mascot idea made me think of how these superstar players are really mascots for materialist culture, which is basically a satanic cult, like I was saying earlier. So, another note, I think the last video on one battle after another really depicted the idea of a battle between materialism and spiritualism, which is also present in this film. The idea is that people who lack authentic belief in spirituality can become solely materialists. Watch that review to see me break down the concept more, but in short, I spoke about how I believe much of the Christian conservatives in the military and secret societies are just as atheistic as the protesters and revolutionaries they are against, and that both sides wish to dominate the other in the physical realm because power is in the material realm is all they have belief in. This desire and belief in material wealth and power over selfless acts of kindness in the name of our sacred spiritual connection and common origin has been the reason why we continue to fight each other and seek to dominate each other, be it on the battlefield or on the sports field. Competition, self-preservation, and ambition should be balanced with cooperation, selfishness, and patience. But without a spiritual belief in any point in acting selflessly, the good in people can become corrupted by the more easily seen and tempting fruits or desires of the material world. Really quick on that, I want to say also that um, the materialists in that film are, like I said, the military and the secret societies. But then on the other side, the um, revolutionaries and the protesters, or the protesters and the revolutionaries, more respective to the military and secret society. But they both pervert and kind of virtue signal, like you said, but like they both justify their actions, right? Like the military, and I didn't say this in the review, that's the only reason I'm bringing it up now. But the military and the secret society, they justify their actions, especially the military, in the name of the safety of and protection of the people, right? Same exact thing that the protesters and the revolutionaries are doing. They're justifying their destructive actions in the name of the safety and protection of the people. So just an idea, right? To think about. Like I said, though, that is their secondary reason. Uh, I think that really they're doing it for selfish reasons, and that movie like exaggerates it for our understanding when they show that the love relationship between Lockjaw, the military leader, and Perfidia, the revolutionary leader, they're getting sexual arousement. They're getting sexually aroused by their dominance over each other, and we can see that that's their main motive.
I think
So,
real quick, I just
mhm,
wanted to clarify for the people listening that it's literally not that big of a deal, but just for some people potentially, I think most people would understand what you said.
mhm.
But earlier, I think, flipped. You were talking about the military, and you said selflessness or selfless, and then you were talking about the uh, I think you flipped selfless and selfish at one point, but I think people understand because you everything else you were saying was like the opposite of that.
Yeah, sorry if that's how it came out. That's not what I meant. But like, yeah, of course, the military and the protesters are doing it in that movie. Both sides are doing it more, especially the leaders of it are doing it more for selfish gains. Yeah. Um, and so in that review, I also quote you, give you credit for your um, summation of Eddington when you said that it's so hyper real that it's surreal. And I compare the movies and I say that they're both like that. And this relates to this movie. And of course, we can't know the answer unless we're in specific places in the world, seeing what goes on behind the scenes. But anyways, is this hyper real or is this surreal or is it both in ways, you know? Um, and how close is this film's Cameron Cade or Cam Cade? He's always called Cam. How close is he to Cam Newton? Just a question. Who also left the NFL. I don't really know a lot about it, but that might be something for the NFL fans to write in the comments. Um, and then now, are we all following a director's script, right? Even outside of the media? Is this play our reality? Is this play solely for our entertainment, someone else's, or both? Are we supposed to learn from all of this as well? My favorite films serve both purposes, entertaining and educational. And I'd hope life was the same way. I thought about this after seeing the movie and how we're in a movie in my eyes, you know, or in a video game, however you want to put it. And I think that, you know, it's we're supposed to learn from it like a film, but it's also supposed to entertain us, you know, we're supposed to have a good time, enjoy our life, but also make it better for ourselves and everyone else, you know. So anyways, put that in
Uh,
here. Hmm.
Real quick, while you were talking about that, this one isn't that in depth. Just like something I heard recently that's kind of funny. And also, I the more as the years have gone by, I used to think it'd be impossible for them to script football,
Hmm.
but I'd always heard that with like I don't know the specifics, but I know something about the Patriots winning in the early 2000s coincided with war campaigns in Iraq and
The Patriot Act.
yes, and the Patriot Act, of course.
Hmm.
But something I heard recently on a podcast that was kind of funny. I can never remember the guy's name, but he's got a weird name, but he's also got a really weird take on culture. He's like a self-proclaimed monarchist. He's kind of known in like the political sphere. Um, but anyway, well, he's like underground. He's not very known, but like that's where he is from, is the political sphere. Um, but he said that football is, I think he said either political pornography or power pornography. And so similar to pornography, you know, you are simulating or fantasizing about this relationship with a person through film. People do that with they're lacking political control in their own country, or because this translates to most countries, not just America. This one is like all countries. Um,
This is somewhere where their team actually wins or has the possibility of winning.
but even so, like even people who don't like, they still ride for their team no matter what, and they just but yes, if their team wins, that's a very good point. Because yes, he was referencing England. I think he was talking about football or soccer, and yeah, I think they've obviously got multiple teams there, but like it's all about yeah, you don't have control over your own democracy or um, your own power in your own life. So you just pretend that you're part of this team that's playing a game in reality. But one last thing about all that is I have come to the realization that because the only time I really watch football is like the Super Bowl. I'll watch it with like family and friends, and every year it's like this is a show. This is like some WWE stuff because they do rig it. I've learned even from sports fans. I'm from Indiana, and the Indianapolis Pacers almost won. They like lost in the championship game or whatever this last season, and I learned obviously the people I know are biased because I'm from Indiana, but I just saw on the internet too that it was rigged. The refs basically they'll call all the fouls on one team and allow the other team to get away with certain things. So it's like they are playing this game. There are high level players playing, but there is a decided winner. This team is going to win, and so who knows how far that goes. But anyway, that's just on the topic of what made me think of that was just like yeah the team the quarterback and the teammates or the celebrity athletes being mascots in and of themselves. The whole game is like a it's not a mascot per se, but it's political pornography and it's like the guy said.
Right.
People lack control in their own life, so they focus on something they literally can't control.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the law of attraction. Um, yeah, man, like I was, I had something in my mind, but forgot it, but probably
Yeah,
come back
sorry,
up.
I
No, it's
keep
okay.
getting lost in the tangent, but
That's okay. That's what I do, you know? And that's what I want us to do. I want us to explore a topic as much as possible. So, that being said, let's go back to the scripted reality. And that reminds me, I believe that, it can be determinist, right? And free will at the same time, and kind of like how, the quantum computer they say is on and off at the same time or whatever, it's not binary. Um, I believe we're kind of in a quantum computer. And I feel like maybe when you glitch glitch the system, which is something I just recently, I mean, of course, glitch I've heard of all the time, but um, Cameron Waters, I think his name is, he made Christspiracy, one of the greatest films ever, documentary exposing how Christ was most likely a vegan, and so were, the Nazarenes and the Essenians before him, and that he didn't eat fish, and that's a mistranslation, or that it was added in later, and or it could have been a fish also means to multiply, um, like fishing for something. But anyways, in that movie, real quick, Christ was, going into the temple not to mess with the money changers, as we were all told, but more to end the sacrifices of animals, which is what the money was being made from. And anyways, great movie. Go check it out. Um, so he talks about how random act of kindness, or not that. He talks about how uh, do unto others as you would like done to yourself. The golden rule is the glitch in the system, right? It glitches the system. Not exactly sure how he meant it, but it's do unto others, not just do unto uh, people as you would like to be done to you. It's do unto others, including animals, in other words. And so, anyways, uh, how this relates to my worldview is that it's determinist if you don't go and change it, which this isn't something I thought about much because I don't really care. But what I think is that when it relates to glitches, the glitch is like you can you can go with what's maybe the natural state, or the how the world was when you came into it, or how the majority was, we're taking this long, super, super long road to evolution. Meanwhile, the animals, they take a straight road because they don't have choice. But humans have choice. So they're able to either go the long route or the fast route to evolution. And I think we're taking the long route most of the time. But when we are vegan, we're taking the fast route. Anyways, that was how I want to that's how you could break the script, basically, is kind of what I was thinking. Um, and yeah, I think that in more ways than one, really. But um, I won't get into it. But so part
We
of
could
what
maybe
got
do we could maybe do get into that a lot more if we do an episode on Christ conspiracy.
let's do that for how about for Christmas? One of the Christmas episodes.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, but part of what got me thinking about um, the idea of scripted reality is the idea that the NFL is scripted. Of course, I've heard that too. Um, so in the week leading up to this review, I heard an announcer during the Buccaneers and 49ers game say something like this, maybe identical to this, but he said, "Let's see what the script has in store." It was like getting towards the end of the game. I never watch football, so I couldn't tell you how often the announcers break the fourth wall like that, but I've heard it's been more common in the recent past, which makes me wonder why it's that way. Like, why are they breaking the fourth wall? Why more in the recent past? Um, Another thing that happened in the week leading up to this review was a child saying to me that he'd quote unquote use devil magic to solve a problem. So he said he's going to use devil magic to solve whatever problem issue he had on the computer. I asked him to explain what he meant, and he said that it came from what the announcers say about the winning teams in the NFL, or which team's going to win here, who's got the more devil magic. Um, so I was like, wow, they're really blatant about it. But
Yeah.
so
That's
this
wild.
concept, and I love that this happened to me in the week leading up to this review, so I could say all of this. Thank you, the universe, God, and whatever. But so this concept is in the minds of even children now, even if it's fully understood by them or not. And even if it's the premise, or sorry, and even if the premise which the concept is based upon is true or not. So this is in the minds of children now, um, even if they understand it or not, or fully understand it. And even if the premise which the concept is based upon is true or not. In other words, if it's true that, the NFL is scripted, right? Even if it's
Mhm.
true or not, this is being broadcast to them for some reason, and in their mind, even if they don't understand it, they probably will go on to it. So I wasn't hearing any of that. I didn't think of any of that when I was a child. I don't know if the child's understanding it, how we're understanding, you and I are understanding it. But anyways, crazy.
Yeah.
I think we're in like very awakening times. And so but if it's true, then these stars are even literally more mascots than they are players, right? Because they're, the characters, they're actors. So that being said, we've gone through everything. Now let's talk about a few things that Trevor brought up to me on the phone call. We already went over the the fan signing, or him asking the fan asking Cam to sign something. Let's go back to the football spinning. I thought that was huge. um, when you brought it up to me and reminded me of it. But in the film, I was like, okay, this is like a miracle, something like that. But I didn't think about it more, like I said. But here's the possibilities of what it is: a miracle, right? Whatever. Like, I didn't really think of it that deeply because I'm not even exactly sure. But it could be a miracle. It could be demon magic making it spin, right? And like catch his attention, right? And or it could be like this the the magnetic or however they get the footballs to, perfectly get those Hail Mary shots in the Super Bowl or whatever, whatever they need the football to do exactly what they need it to do, right? Maybe one thing they could also do is make it keep spinning and then it catches his attention. And maybe it's all three of those things. Maybe it's a couple of them. Anything you want to say on that, Trevor?
Yeah, I think there's what was the first one?
Miracle, a miracle.
Right. I guess this would be the same as that,
Hmm.
but my point earlier when I mentioned it is that things in reality as well as the movie, and I think that's kind of what they were referencing, but who knows? Because there was the scene at the end where Tim Heidecker's character is
Blows
like
up,
yes,
ripped
but
from
also
limb to
was
limb.
pulled onto like through literally demon magic, like
Yeah,
pulled
of course.
onto the that was kind of the only moment like that other than this football where my point was that this I guess could be considered a miracle, but like in life, if you align yourself with either good or evil, either way, I personally believe you will see synchronistic behaviors in the things around you that are uncontrollable. And so that's kind of what I saw that as like these people, these Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, they control so much. They probably control the fan, they control the guy at the beginning, they control all this stuff around him. I think they even controlled his dad, they referenced, or like
Right, we've been watching you, right?
right. I don't know
And
if they do.
but that could be just, them trying to get into his
They
mind
did.
and play games.
They showed a picture though. Did you see the picture
Ooh,
of
yeah, something like that, yeah.
the dad and the owner? The
Oh,
dad
right, right, right,
and the
right,
owner
yeah,
and the
yeah.
kid. So they
Right.
were there at least
In some
physically.
way. Right.
But anyway, my point is that there's things in my opinion in reality that are out of their control
Hmm.
that still align with their behaviors, and that doesn't mean it's a good thing. That, in my opinion, not necessarily the football spinning, I think that was just a reference to this, but in reality, I believe that there is demonic forces that, so just because I've witnessed this in my own life, just because this is for the viewers, this is more like PSA, just because you're seeing these synchronicities and things may be aligning in your life, that does not mean you're on the good path. I've witnessed synchronistic things that led me to believe oh, this means I'm doing the right thing. Just because things are lining up does not mean it's a good thing. There's a Denzel Washington quote that probably a lot of people have heard, maybe not though. The devil, this isn't word for word, but paraphrasing, when you're on when you're doing what the devil wants, he leaves you alone. It's when you're on the good path that he comes in and tries to tear you down. And so that's kind of the opposite of what I was just saying. But
Yeah, yeah. I
even
get what you're saying.
so,
Well, this is something I've thought of too. So instead of thinking of synchronicities as signs if you're on the good path or the bad path, you are the universe. So when you are acting positive and good things in the universe start happening, right? You are everything that's going on within you. That's why they also say, like, if you have this great awakening, right, there's going to be something like this in every household, even, right? And on some sort of octave. And um, dang, had a good idea, but yeah, no, I totally like this is how I believe, and yeah, um, yeah, yeah. Like, but in the past, like when I was in a negative place, it was actually the opposite for me, where I wasn't getting good things, right? Even though I believe that that might, be a that definitely, happens, right? Like you were saying, but I think like when I was having negative thoughts and thinking bad things, right? And like losing my integrity, I saw bad things happening in my life, people dying, people being sick, animals, pets being sick, dying. And then, the opposite, since then, when I've, been more positive, like it's just been all much better. But
Well,
yeah,
I'll go on.
you know, no, you're good, but
Um, what you're describing though, I think is something a little bit different than what I was saying. Like, I'm
okay.
talking about when you are like thinking negative, although that's something you can, in my opinion, control. That's one of the few things you can kind of control,
Hmm.
or at least focus on. You can focus on the good things or focus on the bad things. Um, yes, I do believe when you're in a negative state, you will experience negative things and vice versa.
Hmm.
But I mean, if you're being a bad, not even just a bad person, like if you are on a path that, a path like we're describing,
Hmm.
or that the about, like if you're on a path to seek fame and become the greatest at something, and not for a good reason, like for selfish reasons.
Hmm.
That's what I mean. You may start to see signs. Things might seem like they're going well, and that's because what you're doing is good for yourself, but in doing so, my view on like Satan, whether it's a metaphor or a reality, is like the self, the worship of the self, and the material. And so you things will seem like they're going well. You'll if you focus on money, you may start to get more money, but that's not what it's all about, basically.
Right. Yeah, you're not feeding the soul, you know.
And what you're describing is reality as well. That's more like attraction, like you're talking about. But that I think even if you're in a negative headspace, that doesn't mean you're on the wrong path necessarily.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess it goes back to the predestination thing. It's like if you didn't change anything, you're going to go down that path, And so technically you're on that path or you're getting ready to be on that path. But yeah, there's a lot to discuss there. Um how about yeah, you brought up
The blood.
right, the adrenochrome. Yep. Go ahead.
Well, all I can say is well, two things. I was that was another thing. I guess I'm not as shocked. Like I said, this movie was shocking. That was one thing, I guess. What was especially shocking to me was the the reference, in my opinion, to adrenochrome and the final scene. The final scene was the most shocking part to me. It really shouldn't be because there have been, I think, like you said, Eyes Wide Shut. There are films that use this esoteric symbolism, but again, I don't think that that's far off from reality. Like, and that's what it would have been like, other than Tim Heidecker flying or whatever. That's what I think they did a perfect job. Side note, like a perfect job of portraying. They're doing this elaborate scene where they've got on masks, they've got cheerleaders, they've got people dressed as demons. They're dressed in these tuxedos and pig masks. They've got the contract. They've got pictures of his family. They've got all this like a whole set, and um, but yet there's this awkward moment where like he's not buying it. he decides he's not going to sign the contract and he's going to. Uh, I think this is a good point to put in the thing we were saying earlier about he decides to. I saw it as I was for some reason I started to think he was going to sign the contract when he gets this flashback of his family and he hears his dad say something about that's what real men do, they make sacrifices. And I thought he was going to sacrifice his own well-being for his family because the owner threatens, he says, I will kill your whole family if you don't sign the contract, basically. And but he didn't. He decided to do essentially. Um, Let me write down what I was gonna say, or adrenochrome. But what was it that you said that he did? I thought that he was gonna sacrifice his own well-being for his family, but you said he
Yeah.
sacrificed his
He sacrifices his material temptation and material gain for his family.
right, and actually for his family, like,
Right.
because if he would have done what I was saying, sacrifice his own well-being for his family, that's not really um because this might be a weird point. I've never heard anyone put it like this, but like he is part of his family, so like if he was to destroy himself and become like a a evil version of himself essentially, or a shallow version of himself at least, that would not be good for his family. Like he wouldn't his family would become something else because he's a part of his family. And so yeah, that was a great ending. Um I hope they don't do a sequel because it was a perfect. I don't think they will. It was like a perfect movie. I wouldn't be surprised if they would though, just because of how Hollywood is. But that would probably depend on how successful it was financially. But yeah, I love the ending. But just in my own mind, in my own imagination, I am like curious what his life. He'd probably just become like a coach for like a high school or something. But that would be like a good noble path. But
Yeah.
um the adrenochrome, so that's what I was really shocked by, was other than that final scene, um so there's like this reference to blood throughout the whole movie, um and in the end it gets a little weird. I mean, it was really good symbolically and like story wise, but
Mhm.
like logically to me it made no sense. Like, so this is old blood, like I think it was a metaphor. That's what I'm saying. I think the actual blood that he's being injected with is just a slight reference to adrenochrome. There's these weird moments throughout where he gets the injection with the blood that's at first referenced to, it's called Isaiah's blood, but then in the end it's told that it's the blood of like the quarterbacks before,
Him.
which I think is a good metaphor, but like in reality that makes no sense, but that's besides the point. I think they're referencing. Well, that's what I'm saying. Throughout, when he gets his blood, it wasn't really explicit like what it does. It seemed, because the first mention of it, it seems like it's a painkiller, or like it will just make him feel better. But then there are these moments where he seems to get this like jolt of energy or something, or like the blood, and then at the very end he says like, "Don't you feel that in you? Don't you feel the beast in you?" Which, so that's like a deeper but kind of vague thing. Then there was this scene that I think was a direct, and adrenochrome also, I don't know about the reality of adrenochrome. I tend to think that it makes perfect sense. It sounds plausible and seems to make sense. But I don't know if there's ever been like direct evidence of it.
Mhm.
Um, And just for like anyone who doesn't know, it's allegedly this like I'm sure people know like what it is, but I mean some people who even know have heard of it may not know like how dark it's basically like blood harvested, or I've also heard it's the pineal gland of not just dead babies but like tortured babies
Mhm.
because it the adrenaline throughout the body of an infant
Right.
is probably like
It's you're in the your sympathetic nervous system starts going because you're in fight or flight mode, and it pumps in a lot of adrenaline, and that's probably maybe what they're talking about. I haven't
right,
looked into it much because it didn't really catch me that
right.
conspiracy. But
Me neither.
anyways,
Like realistically, yeah, like I'm probably 50-50 on it, or like
mhm.
60-40, it's not real. Um, or 40 it is real.
I think I like heard like a good like debunk real quick that it immediately dies, like the adrenaline dies like within
Right.
seconds of it like being out of the person's body or something or not
So
unused. So, anyways,
with that being said, like I meant to say 40% like
mhm.
it is real. Probably I don't know, like I don't the point is the movie's about sacrifice. There's a lot
And it
of
could be
different.
just a spiritual thing more that the blood is
Yes,
right, a pure heart blood, right?
exactly.
Pure heart, good innocent blood, right?
That's what I was about to say. It's like
Okay.
they don't get into this as much. They I think I like the way that because they talk a lot about sacrifice
Hmm.
and all the different elements of it. Um, they didn't. I don't unless I'm forgetting. Like they didn't really get into my personal take on sacrifice. Well, okay, I'll say the adrenochrome thing, and then the sacrifice. There's the scene where they are in this party with the owners and these old rich white guys, and they drink like this red thing from the cup that kind of looks like wine. They don't say what it is. And then he has like this trip experience where it's like seems really euphoric, but he also gets sick, which may have been from like the brain injuries and stuff. But anyway, that was just like a really weird scene that like doesn't have much explanation, but it's almost self-explanatory that that was a reference to that. Whether that's real or not, that's what I want to say about sacrifice. Pretty much one of my final things. Let me see real quick here if I had anything else before I make my um, sacrifice. Yeah, so yeah, we basically went into the last thing I had written down. Like he instead of sacrificing, we already talked about that. But my opinion on sacrificing in real life, whether it's ancient Mayan sacrifices or and Illuminati celebrities sacrificing loved ones to become famous. I think that there's a we may have talked about this in the podcast before.
Donda, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I just want to reiterate one last time that no, maybe last, but yeah, there's a practical and a spiritual nature to it, and I think that's what this movie was all about. Like they didn't get into that element of it, but yeah, like I guess what I'll say that I maybe didn't say in that Donda one or in whose name my big thing in everything psychology, spirituality, reality is two things can be true and
We lost Trev. Let's see. He'll join back in a second, I'm sure. Just hang with me, guys. Um, just to reiterate, see this movie, guys. It is, I think, being Not given enough credit. I like the green light now, Trev. What do you think happened there?
My phone died.
Oh, okay.
I'm on my iPad.
Gotcha.
So, and the lights change. um, so yeah, now that I'm in the Matrix, or I've left the Matrix, whatever you want to call it, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say this real quick because I think that's a funny quote. Not only can two things be true, many things can be true. So, just because um, just because someone sacrifices a baby and harvests their blood, doesn't mean that it's going to get you high because of the adrenaline in the baby blood, but it probably gets you high on the fact that have uh, you have done something so
Taboo.
powerful.
Well, taboo, and you've gotten away with it. And if you're a part of that society who's able to get away with it, you know you're in control, right? And also you are connected through, um, that act and that you can't rat on your friends. They can't rat on you because you know that about each other. So there are things that that's an example, with the baby, but there are things, of course, other than that
And
that
I do think
yeah,
one last thing about that, I do believe that when you sacrifice something, you do get something spiritually. Like I've heard it described Satanism or demon worship. You have to give something to get something, and the more you give, the more you get. Whereas being Christ-like or uh, a spiritually enlightened person, I guess you could call it, you are being selfless, and in doing so, you are instead of giving something to get something, you are expanding the love that is already there. Or maybe love is infinite already and it's already there and you are becoming one with it. And so um, some people may young people but also old people who are maybe black pilled, they may like the idea of like, oh, the simplicity of I can give something and get something. But it's not as simple as that. It takes away your soul. You're giving away a part of your soul. That's the whole point of it. You're selling your soul. But yeah, it's much better to just become one with the infinite love and power of God and goodness.
right. Yep. Harry Potter talks about splitting your soul when you commit a terrible act, or kill someone, and I can't break that down very well, but like, yeah, it makes sense. And then another thing with the psychology of doing a terrible thing with a group, right? If you're complicit in it, that's not blackmail, right? So if you did something terrible, right, had a part in it, now they could also hold that against you. So and now you're the only way you will maintain freedom is if you help them uh, get away with that, but also, they could ask you to help them with whatever they want. This idea was brought to my attention through Professor Jiang uh, in a video on YouTube he made called Predictive History, and the episode specifically is called How Evil Triumphs. And I would really recommend anyone see that film. and or sorry, see that video, and this all will probably the him review will be more believable if you watch that. Or sorry, the him movie will be more believable if you watch that. So let's leave it there. I think that's everything. I'm not saying that everything about him is true, or that I even think that. But I think that stuff like that is possible, if not is happening. And, everyone's, way into stardom, I think or I know is different, right? Everyone has a different path, but there are some common things that might happen on a lot of people's paths towards that stardom. And maybe a lot of it is metaphorical, but I think a lot of it happens too. Making these scare tactics, uh, you know, um, useful for controlling the person who is entering the group. So we'll leave it there. Anything, Trevor, you want to say?
No, I think that was a good one, and we covered. I mean, there's so much in that movie, but I think we covered the big enchiladas, as the great Alex Jones says, the
Wow.
big enchilada. Wait, I
Wow.
kind of wanted to Trump, but the big enchilada.
That was good, Alex. All right. Thank you, Trey.
No problem. Pleasure as always.
All right. Love and respect, brother. Thank you so much. I'll see you next review. Well, before then, of course, to plan it. That being said, let's do Frankenstein if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that'd be
All right.
awesome.
I know you also recommended and brought up that we could do the classic reviews of Donnie Darko and Shining. Totally want to do that. So now that we got this one out of
We'll
the
do
way,
the original Frankenstein.
no, sorry.
Young Frank. Okay, I was
No,
like,
no, not even Young Frankenstein. There
oh,
next week, this Friday, it would be great because
there's
we've done all the movies that are interesting up until that point. So it would be coming out this Friday, and then we would release the review if we were able to watch it and
I had
record the
no
review
idea
of the
there
movie.
was a new Frankenstein.
Guillermo del Toro. This is one of my favorite directors. He's, like I say, equal to all my other favorite directors because he's made movies that I hold with the highest value. And definitely can't wait for that movie.
Yeah, that's gonna
Uh,
be awesome. I didn't know
oh
that.
my God. Yeah.
Or maybe I forgot about that. That sounds kind of familiar now that I think about it.
Nightmare Alley is my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. It's a little lesser known movie of his, but Pan's Labyrinth is my second favorite. Both of those movies are perfect. So I recommend everyone see them, and I hope they do. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this one. We will get to you guys first ever Super Spectrum review. That is the weekend of the movie releasing. Let's see if we could do it because that will get us more views and that'll get us just more of an audience for people to hopefully hear our thoughtful, introspective ideas. And that's really what I want. I've never asked before if you guys can like and subscribe in that in that that's why I'm asking for you in that cause or in that for that reason. Please do it, guys. We uh we're gonna keep going no matter what though. So we appreciate even of you. You guys have a wonderful day. And thank you so much.